So I guess it's your definition of dairy, because it is ice cream. And so far we haven't done any real treat kind of things with this series. And if you're after just calories for survival, ice cream has plenty of calories and they're delicious. So anyway, I've got some Neapolitan or Napoleon ice cream, some Neapolitan ice cream. So the plan is to do 4 trays of ice cream this time. And we've done this before. We did this a while back with scoops, and I really liked them. They look beautiful. They remind me of ice cream when I look at them instead of slabs of stuff. Yeah, I really like the look of it. I like the feel of it, the taste of it. So we've got an even smaller scoop this time, because that was the only complaint really, was that the scoops were still kind of big, because I really want little bite-sized pieces, so don't even have to really worry about getting the scoop full. And I also don't mind if they touch, because they'll still pop apart really easily. And I'm working in the freezer to try to help keep it cold so it doesn't get all melty on us. So we've got 4 of these containers. And something sticky like this is where actually having an extra set of freeze dryer trays would be a really nice thing, because then you wouldn't have to transfer. Most of the things, it really doesn't matter. They're just not that sticky. So I've never had a real problem with them. Got another flavor. Okay, cookies and cream latte. So turns out the problem with the ice cream that I hadn't counted on is that it's not very heavy. So I'm not going to get 10 pounds in this batch. I'm really bummed about that. Okay, well, there's nothing I can do about that right now. So we'll have to check it, see if I need to do something else. For now, this is what's happening. And the third one, orange cream. So with the disc in place, I'll get the door closed. So I've got that closed, as I said. I'm going to use the palette knife to make sure I see that seal ring around there, because it's going to be freezing for 10 hours while I'm not standing here. And you end up with a layer of film. You'll end up with a film or a layer of ice between the door and the seal if you don't have that ring. And then when it starts vacuuming, it'll still work, but it has to melt that ice ring before it stops pulling air in. So I'm going to customize, and I'm going to adjust the cycle times, because I want the freeze time to be really long on this, because it's ice cream. I find that ice cream and things like orange juice, sugary, gooey things, tend to need a longer freeze time to make sure that they're really, really solid. So for slabs of ice cream, I would probably do 12 hours or more. With these, I'm hoping, since they're little scoops, that 10 hours will be enough. Okay, so then, done. Okay, we'll make sure the drain valve closed, and in 10 hours it'll start that part. As soon as it's cold enough, we'll get the ice cream in. I need parchment paper. So I've got the parchment paper, and if I spin it over, let's see which one. There, I can see it. Just pull it out to the edge of the table. And that's why I have the marks on there. So it's real quick and easy. So even if I forget, like I just did, and I already got the trays over. All right. Yeah, I used to use scissors and I tried a paper cutter. All of those are slow. This is so much better. So I've got tray 1. And I've got one of the little corrugated plastic pieces for that tray to sit on to help keep it from warming up from the table. And I gotta try to move pretty quickly to get those all on there before they get melty. So I'm gonna try to kind of dump them on there. And of course I wash the table down, so if I make a big mess, I can still use the ice cream off the table. Yeah, this is where having extra freeze dryer trays would be really nice and not have to transfer them, because this is quite a mess. They're gonna be pretty high, pretty tall, but I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, and I've got room for a bit more. Okay, that's 1,500 grams, and for that tray I would need about 380 more to get it to the 2.5 pounds. So I'll get the other one that has the Neapolitan ice cream. That freezer must be a little bit better, and get it out and instantly get it onto trays. Again, working in the freezer is good with these. So the tray was in the freezer, and of course the ice cream was. Just trying to get as many on there as I can. I don't know if I can get enough to get the weight that it's supposed to be for a tray. So my whole 2.5 pounds. Okay, that's 2.5 pounds. So that's the goal. We'll put this in the freezer until we get all 4 trays filled, and tray 2. So these are some of the ones with the cookie dough stuff in it, or the cookie pieces in it. And obviously, if we want to sort them out when we bag them, it's pretty easy. They don't look anything like the other ones. I'm going to take that off the scale for a bit so I can push them into place easier. And then I'll put it back on the scale to check it. And it would be easier if you're not trying to stuff 2.5 pounds on this tray. But to meet the goal of 10 pounds per batch average, I got to try to keep them as full as possible for every batch. Okay, we're within 1 gram. That's good enough. Oh, in fact, it's bouncing up to it, so that's good. Oh, I love this. The orange cream stuff. Oh boy, one of my favorites. Okay, yeah, I could have it off the scale to start with, because we know that it needs to be crammed full before it has a chance to be the right amount. So let's check the weight on that. Let's wipe the hands off. Okay, let's see what we have here. And then we'll use blocks of milk to add any additional weight. So I'm going to try to push these over enough, and hopefully I don't have these too high to fit in the freeze dryer. Boy, might have to push them down a little bit to get them in. Oh well. And then I have some trays of milk waiting too, to fill in the extra spaces. Okay. So I might have to kind of smush them down a little bit, but they'll break apart when we put them in, or when we take them out, go to finish them. So 1852, oops. Yeah, 1853. So that's bouncing from 2 to 3. I'll call it 1852 because it keeps going back down there. So tray 3. All right, so tray 4. Got some chocolate ice cream on it. This one, since I'm out of ice cream because I didn't plan well, with this one I'll just load it up with the milk, and I'll still have the 10 pounds of dairy. The milk is amazing how it gets all this yellowish color when it freezes, and then it goes back to white. With the ice cream trays, I should be able to just kind of push them in there. Going into this one, I'm lifting it up a little bit, so it's not going to have perfect contact, but that should be deep enough, and it is. All right, so that tray is done. We'll get the other ones and get thermometers in them. I'm afraid these are going to be tall in the machine, so I might have to push them down a little bit, but I'm going to just stick a thermometer into this area, get that pushed over to the freeze dryer, and get them loaded. The freeze dryer's been pre-cooling now for an hour and a half, and it's negative 17, 18, so it's dropping quickly. We'll get the ice cream in there, and then I'm going to add another hour or two because it took so long to get it in there. So let's see if these will fit or if I have to mush them down a bit. Okay, starting at the top, tray 1. Oh boy, that is tall, and that's not the tallest one, so I might have to mush them down. Okay, I'm going to use a piece of parchment real quick. It's too much ice cream, so I should have just gone with a lighter load. But I'm going to kind of mush them down so that they will fit in there, I hope. Well, it seals quickly. I'll fold it so that I don't get the other flavor on these. And kind of mush them down a little bit. Hopefully that'll still work out. We've never loaded them that full before. It wasn't a great plan. Okay. So they might stick together a bit in there, but it'll work out in the end. Okay, we've got a good seal ring around there already. Now we'll add time. Also, while we're here, this is the water from the cherry pie filling, about 3/4 of a gallon. That's about the maximum that I really like to do with the freeze drying. And I'm going to add another hour just to make sure that it really freezes that ice cream. Okay, the ice cream's in there and it'll be done in about 2 days. It would have been better probably if I'd have just stuck with the ice cream without the extra milk and just spread them out better. They would have been more separate pieces, and it's what we would have usually done. We're only pushing it this much because of trying to get that 10 pounds per batch. I don't recommend putting 10 pounds of most things in this size freeze dryer. I would have said go with 8 pounds, or like we usually do, 4,000 grams. So we do 2 blocks of 500 grams on each tray, so a total of 4,000 grams, because the math is easier. Okay, so we'll come back and see this when it's done, or when it's close to done. The ice cream and milk is just about done. It's in the last few minutes, so the heaters are already off. Going to get them out before they cool, weigh them, and put them back in for the dry check. I have to consider this one the biggest mistake so far of this series, because I crammed all the ice cream onto the trays to get 10 pounds. I wish I hadn't done that. I like these little scoops, and I like the little separate pieces that they are. But by doing it this way, they may stick together. And I didn't really need to, because the goal was to end up with 500 pounds total. So I don't have to have 10 pounds with every tray, because we're actually a few pounds ahead right now. I didn't realize that until I put this one in there and then did the math on the other ones, and we're about 9 pounds ahead right now. So I could have left this one light and had all the beautiful little pieces of ice cream. But it's too late now, so we'll get them out and check them. Okay, gonna arrow past the last few minutes. Get the drain valve open. And we'll get them out and check them. So, tray 1. And the tray is quite hot. The thermometer says 120 degrees. So that's 1,211 grams. Okay, and then tray 4, because I'm going to put this one up on the top. And this one feels cooler. And the thermometer is only reading about 70 degrees. And it's 9:34. Okay, so that one I'm going to put up on the top shelf. And this other one I'm putting down at the bottom. Okay, tray 2 is 12:18. And the thermometer on that one is about 140. But I haven't calibrated that thermometer, so I need to do that. Tray 3, 11:04. Okay, and then we'll switch these places up on the rack. So that one will go up. And this one will come down. I'll close the drain valve. More dry time. Drain valve is closed. Continue. And start. Okay, it's back in there now. We'll give it at least 2 more hours, because I suspect that the ice cream ones are already done and can be bagged earlier. And since these are a sugary item, I'll want to have the bags ready so I can bag them pretty quickly, because they'll want to draw moisture in from the air. Luckily, where I'm at, it's really low humidity, and especially in this room, it's quite low. So I don't usually have a problem with that. People talk about getting condensation on the front of this a lot. I almost never have that issue because it's rarely humid enough. And then with the second plastic shield in there, this outside of the door doesn't get as cold to begin with. But I rarely have that issue because it's just not that much humidity here. So we'll be back, check it in a couple hours. It's been a bit more than 2 hours since we restarted it. Now it's time to get it out and check it before it turns itself off. It's really right at the end of it. So the pressure's low, the temperature is up pretty good. So we'll get those out in just a second, but first I want to show the thermometers. So the bottom thermometer is 110 degrees. Next one up says 130, but again, there's a calibration issue with that one. Just under 100. And the milk one only made it to about 70 so far. So I'm still concerned that that one's not dry all the way. So we'll get the drain valve opened. And let's see what we've got. Hey, tray 1. Oh, well, there was no change, which means it was dry 2 hours ago. Okay, tray 2. Also no change. Tray 3. And this one has 1 block of milk on it, so I wonder if that will affect it. 1101, that has gone down by 3. So I'm betting it's all out of the milk. I wonder, got some dried ice cream on it, but I'm going to use that to go into the milk. Okay, the thermometer is dropping a little bit. So I wonder if the problem was the milk. So probably all the ice cream was dry, but the milk wasn't. But there's really no way to prove that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Those first 2 trays, I'm going to go ahead and take them out. Okay, and tray 4, this one was just the milk. Oops, I might as well leave the thermometer in there. and it's 9:10, so that's gone down by 24. Okay, and this one's still cold. Yeah, so they have not made it up to temperature yet. Not finished drying. Looks like the temperature is falling slightly. Okay, so that'll go back in there. So I'm going to bag those two and put the rest of it back in. Looking back at the batch notes, in batch 522, when we did milk, in these sizes of blocks, it took 45 hours. Right now it's at 43 hours. So maybe it just needs a couple more hours. But they still seem cold right now, which would suggest that I won't know if it's going to be done for another 4 hours. So 2 hours to dry and then 2 hours to check. So anyway, we'll restart it and check it in a little while. I'm going to just add more time. Continue. I'm going to assume it's ready, because it always is. And I'm going to bump up the time for another quarter hour. So with this time, if the thermometer in the milk isn't above 120, I will add more time before that finishes, before it gets down to the last 15 minutes. And I'll just keep it going till it gets to that time and then weigh it for the check. Because there's just no point on checking it until it's reached temperature. For instance, I mean, it's not that cold, but if there was a thermometer showing below 32, I know it can't be dry. It's never been dry when I've had thermometers that are as low as 70 or 80 degrees. Anyway, we'll come back and check it again later. And in the meantime, we'll bag the other two trays. We'll get the weight on the first two trays, and the other trays will have to wait their turn. So now, with the thermometer out, of course, 12:01. Gotta write all the numbers in the right order, or they don't mean the right thing. Doesn't help if you write all the numbers, but put them in a different order. So 12:01 on tray 1, and 12:09 on tray 2. Considering they're different ice creams, it's not surprising that there are different weights for a tray that started out the same before they started freeze drying. This one has cookies and stuff inside, which are heavier, so it just and they're not going to have as much moisture inside the cookie bits. So you're going to end up with different weights slightly. Now, I want to get them bagged quickly before they start absorbing moisture from the atmosphere. I've got some bags labeled already. So I've got ice cream scoops, the date that it went into the freeze dryer, the batch number, and then I've got water removed as opposed to water needed or needs this much water, because I don't really anticipate doing anything except for snacking on these. But then I've got that number in case I do need to add water for whatever reason for consistency. Okay, so we'll find out how much will fit in a bag. Then we can write that on there. So I'm going to have to do the math on these separate by tray, since we don't have all 4 trays yet. So they're close to a pound a piece, and they started out as 2.5 pounds. I'm not going to put as many in a bag on these, so let's assume 5 bags per tray. So I'll divide it into half-pound amounts. So if I take that and divide it by 5, on this tray, which would be essentially the same as this ice cream also, I need about 89.2 grams per half pound. So let's see if that will fit into this bag. And again, I wish I hadn't stuffed them together, but they still came out pretty good. But I love the little scoops. They're just beautiful. But it would have been better if I hadn't squished them, because then they wouldn't be stuck together at all. Wow, that's a beautiful strawberry. That can just be set over there. Yeah, squishing them together was such a bad plan. Darn it. That's close enough. So that's about a ½ pound's worth right there. And that will close, so that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to bag them up. So ½ pound and 137 grams of water. So if I wanted to get it back, that's what we'd need to add, but I don't really anticipate that. So we'll move quickly and get those done. I'm going to go ahead and label these and be right back after we label those. With the first 2 trays of ice cream in the bags, I'm going to go ahead and put the 300cc oxygen absorbers in it and get these all closed up and then heat sealed. With bagging the freeze-dried items, time is of the essence. You don't want them to be exposed to the moisture in the air for any longer than necessary. And with sugary things like ice cream, orange juice, fruits, they're especially susceptible. They really like to suck the moisture out of the air. Again, I'm in a very low humidity area, but I've still considered running a dehumidifier here just to make it drier. Because when you're going from essentially 0% relative humidity to any amount, it's going to draw in moisture. So do everything you can to minimize that. So have the bags as ready as possible. With things that I already know what will fit in them, I already have the bags completely labeled and ready to fill and close. For some of the things, I'm not really sure what it'll fit, so I like to have the bags as close to done as I can, so then I can just finish the last little bit and get them filled and sealed. So now we'll heat seal them. So, getting the top of the bag smoothed out along the seal strip, making sure that there's no wrinkles or anything, having it as high as I can. And for that first bag, I'm going to just go twice to make sure that it's all the way up to temperature. And hold it a few seconds. All right, I've got it way at the top of the bag. Got room for additional seals if I need it. And if you're not 100% sure about how sealed it is, try it again. Okay, so we'll get those real quick. This is a piece from a pint bag that had some creases in it, so there was no way I was ever going to use it. So what I used it for, though, was testing out the heat sealer. I wanted to get a feel for how it worked, how well it worked, and how the sealing worked. So I've got the 2 pieces, got them together still, and can line them up and heat seal them, then let it cool for a couple of seconds. Okay, now that's the seal. And then, so I don't know if this is valid, scientifically valid, heat seal of bag valid, because I'm not a bag sealing engineer or anything, but you can see it really makes a firm seal. It actually did not break the seal it actually broke off at the edge of the seal. The seal was stronger than the bag itself there. So I think it's a good seal, and that's one of the things that I've done just to check to see, am I sealing it long enough? Am I sealing it? You know, because obviously I don't want to melt the bag, but I want to make sure it's got a good strong seal. Again, I don't know if it has any validity, but it does let me know that it's sealing. So as usual, I'm going to weigh each bag now that it's complete, put the gross weight on the bag. So on that one's 112 grams. That way if the bag ever fails and starts letting moisture into the bag, I can tell just by weighing it. So I'll get these weighed, and then when the other ones come out, we'll get those added to it and then get them in the bins. It's been a little over 2.5 hours since I started the redrive. It's just about to finish again. The heaters have already turned off about 11 minutes ago. So it's starting to cool, but they were up over 110 degrees. I think they were 120 degrees. So we're probably good, but if it loses weight from during that last 2 hours, I'm still gonna have to put it back in to double check. So let's get them stopped and checked. Arrow down past the last of it, open the drain valve. Okay, so tray 3, and that's 1099, so that's down another 2. And again, since I knew it was going to lose weight this time, this is like the new starting point. Okay, 892. Yeah, so that's 18 grams on that one. And like I said, I knew it was going to lose weight, so this is more of just the new starting point. Putting that back in, and the thermometer is way back there this time. So, all right, that's quite a big drop. So tray 4, the one that's just milk, is down another 18 grams. So obviously it wasn't ready to bag, and we're going to put it in for another couple hours and check it. Tray 3, which has one of the blocks of milk on it, was still down by 2. I suspect that all of the drop was just on that one, on just the milk. The tray with just milk has 5 of those little blocks on. At 2 grams a piece, that would be 10 grams. You know, so it seems likely that it's just the milk that has an issue now, since the other 2 trays of ice cream were fine. But without taking the milk off and putting it on a separate tray, there's really no way to check it, and shouldn't hurt the ice cream to have more time. So it's going in again, and I'll give it more time. More dry time. Drain valve. Okay, drain valve is closed. Continue. And make it go. It's been just about another 2 hours, so it's time to check them again. So we'll get them out, check them, see how they did. Hopefully they didn't lose any weight. If they lost weight, it's going back in. If any of them are going to lose weight, I would expect it to be the one that's milk. Okay, so it's in the last 17 minutes. The heater's not currently on, and I can tell that from the power meter. It's only drawing 540 watts right now, so I know that the heaters can't be on. But even if they were, they would turn off in less than 2 minutes. Okay, so arrow past the last of that. Open the drain valve. And tray, which was tray 3? So this is the one that had gone down a couple grams last time. And no change. All right, that had no change. tray 4. Got to make sure it's not touching those. It is. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. Well, that's down another 5 grams. So the question is that enough? Do I trust it having lost 5 grams in 2 hours? Even though it's all the way up to temperature. So it could have finished now. I mean, frankly, if I weren't checking them, I would have thought it was done the first time. Because according to everything else, all the other metrics, it was warm, it felt dry, but then it lost 24 grams. Well, actually that time it was slightly cool on the one, but this last time, the previous time from this, it was not warm. I mean, it was warm everywhere, there was no cold spots, and it still went down 18 grams. So this one's only 5. So do I trust it? Ah, golly, I'm going to go with no. I'm going to give it a short amount of time. I need to leave the thermometer just for weight. I'm going to give it a short amount of time, and while I bag this other one, so maybe an hour. So I'm going to just slide that one back in there. Okay, and close the drain valve. Judging from the time and temperature, the fact that in 2 hours it went down just 5 grams, and that the temperature was all the way up to the 120 range, it's almost certainly dry. I feel no damp spots, feel no cool spots, so there should be no reason I couldn't take it out and bag it, except for paranoia. It's strong in this one. So I'm going to leave it in there while I bag the other one, and maybe put all of them into the bins, and just wait on this one for another hour, hour and a half, because I'd rather have that, and then see if it goes down anything. Even if I only give it an hour and it goes down any amount, then I know it wasn't ready. But if it stays at 0, then it's pretty likely it's fine. So let's give it just a touch more time. So I've got the drain valve closed already. Going to give it more time. Drain valve is closed, and restart. So just going to give it a short amount of time and check it. In the meantime, we'll get this other tray bagged. Time for tray 3. Oh, get the thermometer out, of course. And it's 1090. Now, one of the problems is, well, luckily we know what that was. That was an 8-ounce portion. So the rest of it would have been 2 pounds. So if I take that off, then I know that the rest of it was 2 pounds, and I can get a sense for how to bag these. I'm going to assume it's similar to the other ice cream, but that's not a guarantee. So first we'll get that block off of there. And plan with the milk is to put 3 of these blocks in each one of these bags, so I have 24 ounces. But since the other ones are still in the machine, I'll put it in this zipper bag until they're out. And at the same time, that'll work out well, because that's the plan, was to put it into here and powder them before I put it in the Mylar bag. To make that work, I'm going to have to move these pieces out of the way a bit so I can get into that space. These are beautiful little scoops. And unfortunately I had mushed them down, so they're kind of stuck together a little bit. Okay, let's get that out of there. And I know this has a little bit of ice cream on the bottom, but that's okay. All right. Yeah, I don't want any of this stuff exposed to air any more than possible, so that it doesn't absorb humidity out of there. So this isn't as good as a Mylar bag, obviously, but for the hour or two that's necessary, I think that this will work out fine. So I'll set that aside with the milk
containers, or the milk Mylar bags, and get this back on the scale to find out how much this part is. This, with just the ice cream, is 1064, 1063. So I've got it calculated out. I need about 80 grams in each one of these bags to get the 1/4 of it. And I'm going to start with the one that has this piece, or these little ice cream pieces, because that way I've got that one mixed one done and out of the way. Aiming for 80. Okay. Okay, pretty close. So we've got these 4 bags, 4 1-quart bags with the ice cream in it, and from a previous time I had 4 of the oxygen absorbers left of the 300cc size. So I'm going to use that for this set. All of the oxygen absorbers come with this little indicator to tell whether or not it's been exposed to oxygen. When you cut it open, that turns color pretty quickly. So, yeah, look at that thing go. The old ones used to take a minute or two to turn. These new ones are so fast. That's cool. Okay. Okay, so get an oxygen absorber in each one. And then get them zippered shut right away. Yeah, I've thought about putting these inside the bag, but I'd have to put a note on the outside to look for it the instant it gets opened, because they do turn so fast. I'd really like to see how well they do. So see if the oxygen is absorbed so much that this turns back to pink, because I know it does when I reseal a pouch of them. Here's an example right here. This kind is similar, but it's slightly slower than that, I think, but it really does a good job. But after it's been sealed back up in here, it will slowly turn pink again as all the oxygen is used up out of this bag. So I'd like to do that and put it in there. I will at some point, but I just got to figure out how to remember to look for it. And maybe if I just don't wait forever, I'd remember it. Anyway, so I've been saving a bunch of these just for that for later. I mean, a whole bunch of them. You can see the color difference. So there's that same kind inside and outside, and this bag has 1 oxygen absorber in it with dozens of these in there, and they were all this color, and then they slowly turn back to the pink as the oxygen is absorbed out of there. So again, I'll have to try this and see which kind works and see if it shows it, how it shows up in there. And these are just kind of an extension of the other ice cream, so oh, that one's got a little bit wrinkly looking, so I'm gonna hit it again. Now these can wait with the others until that last tray is done.
So when I took them out and checked them a couple hours later, they were finally dry. But what I couldn't do is start the audio. So this is the beginning of 23 minutes of lack of audio. It's a new record for me. Hooray! Anyway, they were finally dry, and I was able to take them out and bag them. So after getting the defrost baffle and fan into place, I talked a bit about how having the mixed batch with the ice cream and the milk didn't turn out very well, because I had to wait a very long time for the tray of milk to be finished. Everything else was finished right away, but that one just kept dragging on and on. Took 4 to 6 hours more than the ice cream. Anyway, something about that, blah, blah, blah.
Next, over to the power usage meter. It was 30.65 kilowatt hours. However, it would have been a lot less if I hadn't mixed them. The ice cream was done hours before this, but I don't know how much difference it would have been, but I talk about that here. So here, I take 3 of the half-pound blocks, so 24 ounces, and put it in one of the zipper bags and then crush it up. It's amazing how dry this stuff is. It's static clinging on the inside of the plastic bag. It's just super dry. Anyway, so I crush it up by gently squeezing it, and then I'll put it in the bags, and then put an oxygen absorber in, seal it shut, and then we're ready to move over to bins and put them away. Finally, after a long time of dry checking, everything's finally ready to go into the bin. So it's going into bin 6 is the last item. No, it's not. It's the next item going into bin 6. We've got 2 more items after this, don't we? So it's going in there, and then as soon as the machine is defrosted and dry, we'll get the next thing going. In the meantime, so these are the ones that I finished bagging over 4 hours ago. The oxygen absorber's already done most of their magic, and they're already sucked down. Let's get everything into the bin. So the cherry pie filling, the bags have sucked down some, but the stuff that's in here is very solid and dense, doesn't have a lot of air space. Unlike those peas where there's air between every little piece of it, and they look like they're vacuum packed. Okay. So the ice cream scoops now are going in there along with the milk, and this will be on our computerized list so we'll know where to find it. The fact that it's in bin 6, and again we can sort by bin number, by date, but we only do month and year, not actual every day. So we can sort by bin, by date, by food. I don't remember if there's anything else. Anyway, so we'll get those in there. And these are really sucked down a lot already. And finally, the milk. And we've got 2 more varieties to go in there, and there should be enough room for 2 more to be in there. The current plan is sweet potatoes and then white bean chicken chili for the final item in this bin. After that, we're planning on 1 whole set of what I call OPF, or other people's food. Then my sister's going to do 1 whole set of 6 batches. So that's the plan after this bin is full. Okay, that's it for this. The batch of ice cream and milk is done. And it helps point out one of the reasons I don't like to mix foods in a single batch, especially things that seem to dry at considerably different times. The ice cream scoops, shaped the way they were with little scoops, dried in hours and hours sooner than the milk. At least 4 hours, maybe 6 hours or more. And it's really annoying because then you have to wait for that one more thing to be done. And if I weren't weighing them, I would have stopped the milk probably 2 sets earlier. So about 13 grams of water earlier, because they felt dry, the temperatures were good, they were powdery. There was nothing to suggest that they still had 13 grams of water on that tray. But it obviously did, because 13 grams came out. Anyway, it's done now, and it's an example of why I try not to do that very much. Or if I do that, then you got to be prepared to just wait for whatever's the slowest thing. If you were to combine pineapple and ham in the freeze dryer, pineapple takes a lot longer than ham. Ham, even a full 10-pound batch of ham only takes about 30 hours to dry. And if you keep it more reasonable, 8 pounds is what I would suggest for this machine for the maximum, or 6 pounds of water load. So if you were to have a total of 8 pounds of ham and pineapple, and say it was 7 pounds of ham and 1 pound of pineapple on one end of a tray, the ham is going to be done in 25-30 hours, but the pineapple is going to take a lot longer. It could take 60 or 70 hours in my machine. Pineapple is very slow. And if I'm running it fully automatic on the machine for letting it sense for when it's dry, it's not going to detect that small amount of moisture coming off of that small amount of pineapple in comparison to the fact that all the other trays are dry. So it's going to give me a false reading as to whether or not it's really dry. Anyway, I need to make sure I do that less, or again, make sure that I'm going to leave it in there for long enough for it to dry. Another thing about the ice cream, I definitely wish I had not tried to get 10 pounds on those trays, because the ice cream scoops look really nice if you don't crowd them together and they stick. So if I'd have just stopped with the ice cream and not put the milk on there, I would have been shorter than 10 pounds. I would have been 1.25 pounds short. No, I would have been 2.5. I would have been 2 3/4 pounds short of the 10 pounds, but that's okay, because in this series right now, I'm 9 pounds ahead because some of the other batches were heavy. So it would have been fine, but I didn't think of that, and I didn't add that up literally until they were in there for hours already, when I realized that I didn't need to have done that. Anyway, I did that and it was unnecessary. Yeehaw! But it's done now. But it did take a long time and lots of problems. It wasn't a great couple of days anyway, so we'll move on, get to the next thing. Okay. Rotate the racks and rotate the pans. Anyway, so well, let's see how much the stuff before this that you were just watching, did I manage to voice over it? Because I just realized that I hadn't turned on the audio. How annoying that I forgot to turn that on again.